The Hummingbirds Gift by Stefan Zernecki and Tiffany Rhodes. Illustrated by Stefan Zernecki. More hummingbirds than one could ever count come to drink nectar from the beautiful flowers that flourish around the village of Sinsun. In fact, that's how this Mexican village got its name. Sinsun is the Tarascan Indian name that means the place of the hummingbirds. The birds are legendary there, for they once performed a great service. Many years ago, a farmer named Isidro lived on the outskirts of Sinsun with his wife Consuelo and their 3 small children. Every morning, the family would rise at the rooster's first call and go to work side by side in their wheat fields. They cared for their crop until it was ripe and ready to be harvested. When all of the wheat was cut, they sold it to the nearby mill. One year, Isidro and Consuelo planted the seeds, as usual, for their new crop of wheat. Day after day, they searched the sky for rain clouds, but none could be seen. From dawn until dusk, the sun shone bright and hot in the sky. Isidro watched the spindly stalks of wheat in the parched earth slowly wither and turn into yellow straw. Even the hardy cacti growing around the farm turned brown and brittle. The river dried up. All the flowers withered as well, and the hummingbirds could not find nectar to drink. Many died. "Poor little birds," Consuelo said to Isidro. "We must find a way to help them." Together they devised a plan. Isidro took the burro and 2 large clay jars and followed the dry river bed to the lake, which still held a small amount of water. There he filled the jars. When Isidro returned home, Consuelo carefully mixed the water with clay to mold tiny pots in the shape of flowers. She baked the pots in the sun, and then she and the children painted them with all the bright colors that were once in the garden. Next, Consuelo mixed sugar with the remainder of the water and poured the sweet nectar into the clay containers. The children placed the painted containers in the branches of the bushes around the garden. Soon, a blur of wings surrounded the pots, and the hummingbirds drank their fill. Isidro struggled to bring fresh water from the lake every day. Consuelo mixed the sweet nectar, and the children made sure the pots were always filled. The hummingbirds were saved. But as Consuelo watched her children with the little birds, she began to worry. The hummingbirds now had something to eat, but how would she feed her children? There was no wheat to sell, and hardly any food in the cupboard. The hummingbirds, sensing her anxiety, flew out of the bushes and spread over the dusty field like an iridescent blanket. Each bird was a whirl of activity as it gathered a few small bits of straw in its beak and flew back toward Consuelo. When a small pile had formed, the birds settled at her feet and began to work. As Consuelo looked on, the little birds darted about, weaving the bits of straw into beautiful tiny figures. Consuelo called Isidro and the children. "What a blessing this is," she said excitedly. "See how the hummingbirds have shown us what to do?" She asked Isidro and the children to gather all the straw from the fields and to pile it in the shade by the front porch. Then Consuelo showed them how to weave the figures. Day and night they wove. Soon the pile of straw was transformed into tiny dancers, musicians, skeletons, and many other shapes. "We will sell the figures at the Day of the Dead festival," Isidro proclaimed. All the villagers will gather in the town square to eat, talk, and explore the marketplace. They will be buying gifts to give to their children and to honor the dead. On the morning before the festival, the family took their straw figures to the village to sell. The square was soon crowded with people, and everyone stopped to admire the woven figures. Isidro and Consuelo sold all of them quickly and earned enough money to last all year. They bought sweets for the children and food, flowers, and candles for the festival. At night, the family joined the rest of the villagers in the procession to the cemetery. There, they cleaned their ancestors' graves and placed flowers on the headstones. Then they told the children stories about their grandparents and great-grandparents. Several weeks later, it began to rain. The family laughed and sang because they knew the river would be full again. The wheat would grow and the flowers would blossom for the hummingbirds. Every year after that, Isidro, Consuelo, and their children wove the straw and displayed the tiny figures. And to this day, their children's children and their children remember the hummingbird's gift.